love riding my bike. I love running. I don't care what they think about it. I love it.
At that point, when I knew I was going to win, chills just went up and down my entire body.
I don't believe there are any good or bad foods. Food is food.
I still feel so passionate about getting that record that I'm like, I'm just going to do it.
As an athlete, I was like, what's my story, or what's your story? What can you learn from it? And what can you teach people?
Welcome to the IronWomen podcast. I'm Alyssa Godesky here with my co-host Haley Chura. And Haley, big news front and center in your fan club world this week was that Haley Chura was on Instagram, which can mean only one thing often these days, which is announcement of a wildcard spot to a T100 race. And I feel kind of bad leading off with this because I don't want to like blow up your spot and like just totally make it about this. But at the same time, I think you understand that like I get really excited and other people get really excited because these T100 races are so fun to watch. The series is fun to follow. And when you race there, it's like I have a horse in the game. And so I'm so grateful to you when you are taking another jump into these races. So I have to hear all the details. All I know is that you posted that you're a wild card to the T100 race in London. So tell me everything.
Yeah, thank you for your excitement. I do appreciate excitement. It's been a weird couple months for me. So I am super excited I got the wild card opportunity and I'm able to take the wild card opportunity and head to London. And I will say that, it's been so funny watching kind of this evolution of this T100 series because how the wild cards are announced has been a little bit different each time. And this was like probably my favorite one just because I did know ahead of time. I wasn't.
Yeah, it's like a month ahead. Well, also the race is still like a month out, which I feel like normally it's like 2 weeks. I was like, when is this race? Looking up, and I was like, oh, Haley's got loads of time this time. This is like so different than usual for her.
Oh, right, because Miami was like 2 weeks or something like that, and then this one I feel like they had to follow maybe World Triathlon is stepping in and making them follow a little bit more of a strategic process. But although I'm not totally sure because we did see Sophie Colwell and Jessica Learmonth, who are wildcards, who Sophie did not make, the British Olympic team. Both of them are, I think Jess has been previously on the British Olympic team, but it will be interesting to see them in there. So I'm not 100% sure on how the wildcard process works still, but it's evolving. It's ever evolving, but I did get, here's how it works. Like, it's like, I'd gotten a WhatsApp like a little while ago about, if I still was interested. Oh, and then gosh. I was like, yes, definitely. And then they're like, okay, we'll keep you posted. And then I got another WhatsApp, I think, saying that I was confirmed, but then the announcement asking to keep it confidential and the announcement would come out on Saturday. So, but then I think the PTO is based in London. And so the announcement came out before I woke up. And so I was like, one of those things where I wake up to some text messages being like, oh, you had a wild card. And I'm like, oh, yay. Okay. It's out. And I can like tell people and celebrate a little bit. And then I saw who the other wild cards were because I didn't know who the other wild cards were and who had accepted. And Alyssa, one of the craziest things I feel like is that I think it's only me and Chelsea Sodero are the only 2 American women.
Oh, that is. Yeah.
I mean, it's in London and it's just very, very British. I mean, it's like very interesting, which is also interesting for the travel because then I actually just got this morning an email with some of the travel stuff, which was another thing. Okay, here's another thing. So after I found out like it was announced on Saturday, I was like excited and I was like, I just want to book a plane ticket because I had not looked up like flights to London. And I think that my conversation with Sky Monch a couple weeks ago was kind of interesting to see how the contracted athletes, like how they're given like a set amount, and their contract for marketing, and then their travel they pay for their own travel. And if you are a wildcard athlete, you get $1,000 travel stipend. And so I had said yes, like I didn't even look up how much tickets were to London, but I was like, it can't be more than Singapore, right? And like right. Singapore, my ticket, I think was like around like $2,200. And so I saw that as, okay, I'm only paying $1,200 to go to Singapore. And like, I do think the contracted athletes, why so many contracted athletes didn't go was because that would come out of their like 70,000. And it's just, we need a psychologist on to to like talk about that, where like my thought is like, woohoo, I'm only paying 1,200, and their thought is like, I don't want to spend too much of my 70,000.
I don't know. I don't think that that's necessary. I don't think like any of the pro triathletes I've ever known are like well known for being like super money savvy. So I'm not sure that that's necessarily their line of thought.
Maybe
I
it's
think
just
it might have
Sky.
been,
I
it
mean,
might have
Sky's
been
a
more
tax
like,
accountant.
yeah, true. But it might have been more of like the heat and other things keeping other people away. Who knows? But
And there are
anyway,
plenty of us that still went. I mean, we still
Yeah.
had a full field there. And but it is just like the psychology on this. So I hadn't looked up and I was like, well, can't be like a $4,000 ticket. And luckily, because I mean, I was just a little bit worried because it is a similar time to the Olympics. And I was like, what if you flew into London and took the like channel to France? I mean, I don't know if that's something people do, but so I was like, oh, what if it's going to be really expensive? And it wasn't that bad. So I think first I found a great ticket for like $1,200 and I was like, yay, that's like $200. And I booked it like immediately and then looked at it and I was like, shoot, I booked it for the wrong days. And then because I like accidentally, it was like cheaper to fly on, one day than the other. And then I was like, so then I found a different flight so I canceled that, but like you don't get your money back for 7 days, but whatever. My credit card bill luckily isn't due in 7 days. And then I booked another flight and this was on Delta. It was even better. And I was thinking that the race was on Sunday and I was like, oh, this is even better. It's like even cheaper, all this. And so I booked that. And then later that day, my sister was talking about was texting about some things and she was saying like how she had something going to the Taylor Swift concert in Munich on the 28th. And I was like, oh, that's the day I race. And she's like, no, it's the day after you race. And I was like, no, I'm pretty sure I raced on the 28th. And she's like, no, you raced on the 27th. And she was able to like look in the T100 like comments on their Instagram where like other people had asked like, what day is the men's race? What day is the women's race?
What day is the race? I need to book my plane ticket so I can race.
Well, this was me trying to like book everything before I'd gotten the official email because I was just like excited and then the tickets seemed fairly reasonable.
Yeah.
And so I had booked thinking the race was on Sunday. The race is actually on Saturday. I had to go in and change things. It was only $140 extra. So
did you change it so that you can fly to Munich? And then did you get a Taylor Swift ticket is the real question.
No.
Okay.
But it will be okay. I'll be okay. I know. That probably would have been ideal. If I had known about all this, like maybe several months in advance.
Yeah.
Done that. This is the peril of being a wildcard athlete and not being a contracted athlete. I did not know I would be in Europe at this time. So
for her tour, I know. Shoot.
I know. But don't feel sorry for me. I'm okay. But so anyway, thankfully low change fees. But this is one of those chaotic things. And I'm just like, this is my life. I'm just like booking these plane tickets, canceling these plane tickets. But okay, for everyone's information, the women will race on Saturday, July 27th around 2 p.m.
London time,
of which we will figure out when that is in American time some other day. And then the men will race Sunday, July 28th around 2 p.m. London time. So
okay.
I do think I kind of like going first. We went first in Singapore too. And it was nice to be able to go cheer for the men the next day. And in Milwaukee and in Miami, the men went first. And on the one hand, in Milwaukee, I actually really enjoyed watching the men's race. Like I went and watched in person the swim and the bike or part of the bike. And then I went and got dinner and watched the rest of it on the coverage. And it actually I love watching sports and like watching other people and they're like very much my contemporaries. And it really inspired me. Like it really inspired me for the next day. Miami was inspiring, but also like I had to look away, like we talked about that because it was so hot and it was like watching major blowups. And I was like, okay, I don't need that much inspiration. And so because it was like, well, it was only like an hour before I was going to do it. It wasn't like the next day. And so it's nice to like I don't necessarily want to watch too much suffering before I go, but I don't think London will be as hot as Miami or Singapore. So anyway, women go first. Those are the details. And I have a plane ticket, I think, for the correct days now. So the thing is, okay, I think the whole point of this story was that a lot of the British women are like flying into like London city or they're not flying. They're like traveling across town if they're from London. And they like were like, oh, flying to London City Airport. And I was like, okay, that's not happening. Like I'm gonna fly to Heathrow. And they said there's a train. And so maybe this is someone, if anyone's like very familiar, I think the PTO will help us with this. I need to like log in all my transfer stuff because that's one of the things I love about these PTO races. And your conversation with Lottie Vilms, I think she did a really good job of laying out like one of the things that's special about these PTO and T100 races is how we get a very fair race. It's women only. It's a small field. It's very equal, men and women. The support is very equal. And then also they treat us like pros. I mean, we get like airport transfers. So someone picks you up at the airport and there's a bike mechanic that is accessible to everyone. And just, it's just these like little things that really make you feel good. Even when you're
and set you up for a good race. Yeah.
Yes. And they do. But this one they did on the email, it says like there's a train from Heathrow to, I guess, London City Airport, which is near the venue, which is it's on the east side of London. And so I'm picturing me with all my luggage getting on this train. I have done this once before in Amsterdam and I was very, very nervous about it. And it was like no big deal. But I just like, we're not very familiar with train life. And
yeah, it's stressful.
Very crowded.
Yeah, I did a crowded train getting somewhere in Taiwan when I was racing there, and it was stressful. I mean, the train only stops. Those trains are not like, I mean, even the trains I have ever taken in the US are like the metro trains, and those kind of like keep an eye out for things going on and like kind of sit there a few seconds longer. These are like on the schedule. If you're not out of that door and your luggage is behind, it's just going. So, but I like recruited help. That was always my strategy. I'm like, you help me with this bag, you help me with this bag, and like I'll take the bike, right? And so like I just always would get people to help me, and it worked pretty well for that. But it is stressful, but you can do it. It'll be totally fine.
I know.
And maybe you'll run into the royal family and they can just be your help.
Yeah, I'm sure they're just frying the train between Heathrow and London City Airport. No, I think the PTO, again, I like get nervous about these things, but the PTO and the T100 crew, I mean, it's as seamless as you're gonna get, with their support, and someone will come find me or find.
Have you been to London before?
I have. I went to London in like 2018 just as a vacation. Actually with my sister, we saw the Harry Potter play. I think we were podcasting. I did a joint podcast that day. Like I started it in the morning and then we finished it. That was a weird time. I mean, I don't remember it a lot. I wouldn't say I'm an expert on London.
Okay. Yeah.
But I have a good friend, my friend who used to live in Bozeman, and one of my athletes, Steph and Joe, they live in London. And this is the great thing. Steph is a teacher who usually flies back to Bozeman in the summer, and she's flying back on July 28th. So I'm so glad I'm racing on the 27th. Like another good thing. So this is like it's all coming together. Even though it'll be Chelsea and I holding down the fort.
For the good old US of A. You can do it. I feel good about this one. No, but it's gonna be super exciting. It gives everyone things to look forward to in the racing world with us for the next 4 weeks. And the racing world has been pretty busy, not necessarily in triathlon this week, Haley, but in Olympic trials world, which I know we've been talking about swimming the last couple of weeks. And I just wanted to take some time to talk about the track trials I was watching and the gymnastics, if you watched any of that, because as I was recovering from the week at RAM, I found myself sleeping a ton, but then I was like brain dead after a certain amount of hours every day. It took me quite a while to kind of get through that mental fog and fatigue. And then I had to do like double time on not even double time, triple time, quadruple time on my PT because my knee definitely didn't make any gains while I was sitting in the RV for those 7 days. And so I'm definitely like really, what's the saying? My nose is on the grindstone or something of like really trying to get myself back to a good place with my knee. And so the perfect thing to do when you're doing PT is like to watch TV. And so I've been very lucky that there has been a lot of great TV on lately to watch with the trials. And so I guess the first question has to be, have you been watching? Should we have a little discussion about this?
Yeah, I have been loving the track and field trials, and I definitely don't know as much about track and field as I do about swimming. And so, but there's such a variety of events and it's pretty neat. I am curious, are you doing this PT live? Because for the East Coast, it is quite late. I mean, we talked about this because the trials were happening in Eugene, Oregon, so on the West Coast. And I mean, it's a late night for you.
It is. So actually what I did, I will admit, I basically was running one day behind. So I taped the first night and then I was like watching that at a reasonable hour the next day. And then
do you avoid spoilers? Are you like off social media?
I'm not off social media, but I really try, like sometimes I'll see a picture. So I'm like, okay, that person probably did good. But like, I just quickly close out of it or something. And so, and it's like, I think for the Olympics, I'd be way more careful. I don't mind a little spoiler for the trials because I'm still going to watch the race. And the races were so good. They were totally worth watching still anyway. So anyway, I was watching most of the stuff a day behind. And so that allowed me to start it at like 6 or 7 p.m. when I was like watching my tape delay, my own personal tape delay.
Oh, okay. I know I've watched a lot of them live, because you know,
it is late. It is. Yeah.
I
but
can't
not
help it,
for
but
you.
I'm in mountain time, so it's not
Yeah.
quite as bad, but it's just, I think, so this is actually plays into some of my, like, I think when I look at myself and I know that I had written about how I feel like my racing this year has been a little unconventional. And what I meant by that was that I intended to do Ironman kind of starting this series or this year, and even gave some thought to the Ironman Pro Series, and I have done 0 Ironmans and 0 Ironman Pro Series races. Instead, I've done this T100, and it is a little bit different, and the mental bandwidth I think required is a little different. And so I think that you know, there's times when I'm like, oh my goodness, what am I doing? Like I'm an Ironman athlete. Why am I racing people who are going to like be potential medalists in Paris at the Olympics? But I watch these trials and I just feel like I have so much admiration for every single person in the events. And I'm just like, okay, this is so cool that people are trying this, you know, even the people who don't make the race, you know, the Olympics, and there's some heartbreaking races. I mean, and we've also seen races that didn't turn out how they would have necessarily been expected to on paper. And so I'm like, this is sports. This is why we actually compete. And that's why maybe when you get an opportunity, you take the chance, even if it doesn't seem super obvious. And so that's where the Olympic trials have been, you know, helping me in my own life, I think, just being like, hey, go out there and see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely been a theme, I feel like, of watching this year where these really, I mean, the fields are so deep. These women who would be totally in contention for the Olympic spot, right, are not making, they're coming in 4th, 5th, 6th, right? And then they're getting to their post-race interview and they're still thrilled because they're like, listen, I just ran a huge PR for myself. This was something I couldn't do until I got into this field with these women. And it's like, you know, like I'm thinking of Corey McGee in the 1500, I think Ali Ostrander in the steeplechase, right? Like these women are, it's so cool to see that and to see the appreciation for that's building for that sentiment, right? Of just like making these fields deep, making them competitive, going out and giving your best shot. And like, you know, we're really happy for the women who are getting their spot. And like, that's an exciting side of the race, but it's also a really exciting side of the race to see what's going on now, like in the mid pack, which is wild, you know?
That 1500 was incredible with like, what was it? Like 8 athletes under 4 minutes and just so fast. Nikki Hiltz taking that win. And then we talked about this a little bit. Like Ellie St. Pierre qualified in both the 1500 and the 5K and is expected to run just the 1500 in Paris.
So.
And how that like, and it is fascinating to me, I think, coming from the swimming background where athletes often double in events. I mean, you see Katie Ledecky and she'll swim I guess she did qualify in the 200, but that was because she wanted to be in the relay, but she'll swim, you know, she in trials, she'll swim 200 free, 400 free, 800 free, 1500 free, and just a lot of events. And several of those do have semifinals and finals or prelims and finals at least. And then, I mean, that's how Michael Phelps got his 8 gold medals in Beijing. I mean, it's so many starts and you just don't see that as much in track. It's a little bit more specialized. So I find that really fascinating. The one that really fascinated me was Jasmine Moore qualified for Paris in both the long jump and triple jump. And it was like the first time that's happened or the first time in a very long time that's happened. And I just didn't realize that those were 2 very, very different sets of skills.
Yeah, you would think I would even put like high jumpers as someone who could maybe qualify in the other jumping events, right? Because I'm like, I don't know, it feels similar when you're thinking about the mechanics of things jumping. But you're right, there is a lot of specialization. And I mean, even I noticed like Sha'Carri Richardson, right? Like, doesn't make it in the 200 final, much to everyone's surprise. And it's like, okay, fastest 100 by a decent bit, right? And then couldn't do the 200. And so I think she was what, fourth, I guess, there. So it is wild that a lot of times you would expect to be able to extrapolate that stuff and you can't. I feel like in the distance events, we're seeing a bit more crossover still, and it'll be interesting to see if that changes in future years as these fields just continue building and specialization, I don't know, maybe occurs more in that those like endurance events. But it's hard to say. I don't know. It's so exciting to watch. All of Vermont was definitely watching that 1500 and cheering for Ellie. I think everyone's also super excited for Nikki Hiltz because, seeing their kick is always just so inspirational. But Vermont was for sure cheering for Ellie, and I think we're still as a state excited to see what she tackles in the Olympics. But Haley, my question of the night for you, day, whenever people are listening to this, is if we were abandoning triathlon for a bit and suddenly we woke up Freaky Friday style and you could like swap bodies with a professional track and field athlete, what track and field, I guess, what track and field event would you be like swapping by? You don't have to pick the person because that I feel like that's a lot deeper than the question I want to ask. So the question I want to ask is like, if you could be a professional track and field sportswoman, what event would you want to specialize in?
Honestly, I think I would probably, I'd love to be 100-meter runner.
Oh my God.
I would love to be that fast and also that strong. Like I just feel like it would be so fun to go that fast. I think I'd be a little nervous about the start and just how any little mistake makes like can make or break things, but you watch them, man, they just go and it's so fast. It looks so much fun. How about you?
I would say the heptathlon. I think it's so fun
Oh,
that they get to do the field events and some of like the 800, right? Because I think, and it's probably cheating a little bit because I feel like if I had a sliver of a shot to do anything, it would be something like that heptathlon where I had to be like pretty good at a lot of different things instead of like really fast at one thing.
that's like, oh yeah, one that's like closest to triathlon.
I did cheat, but it's just because I feel so far removed from ever being able to run. I mean, literally their 200 times are just like, I mean, it's almost like half of what I would be. I mean, it's definitely half of what I would be running right now. It's a third of what I would be running right now.
Did you see Snoop Dogg's 200?
No, did he run one?
Yeah, Snoop Dogg, because he was there supporting Noah Lyles.
I saw his
and he ran a
Chase
200.
commentary, but I didn't see the running.
Oh, you gotta YouTube his 200. Do you want me to tell you what he ran?
Yeah, tell me. Yeah, give me that spoiler.
34.4.
Whoa. Okay, that's pretty good.
I know.
Okay.
For like our listeners, that's like 4:40 pace for a mile. I mean, and he ran it in pants, like wind bands. And he ran against like
track pants, probably.
Ado Bolden and Wallace Spearman, who are both, I think, past world champions. And they look like, everyone looks like they're jogging, but like they're going actually so fast. Like I don't think I could just go out and just run a 34 right now, unless it was really, our Freaky Friday situation where I wake up as a 100-meter runner and then I'm like, doing a 10-second 100. Oh, that'd be so fun.
I also found it pretty inspiring. My last tidbit about the trials is that Haley Lolo Jones ran the 100-meter hurdles, and I mean, Lolo she's like a heptathlete, right? She does pretty good at a lot of different things. And so I do admire her kind of, drive and determination to just keep putting herself out there and keep testing herself in sport. I think she's now 42 years old, 40 or 42 years old, I think I saw. So that's awesome to see her still out there. For other old ladies our age, they will know Lolo for sure.
Yeah, no, that is, I mean, it is. It's very, very cool. The middle-aged pro athlete club is growing and I love it. It is like the best thing ever. And it kind of adds into what we were talking about earlier, how cool it is to try things and just put yourself out there and see what happens and do something that someone else hasn't before. And I think that is very cool. The hurdles are fun to watch. I mean, that Sydney McLaughlin or Lavroni in that 400-meter hurdles getting that world record. It feels like every time she runs, it's like a world record. And then
I know.
we haven't talked about Athing Mo and the fall.
Oh.
In the 800. Like, what was your reaction when you watched that?
I mean, it just like breaks my heart. It really does. I start to go down that rabbit hole of like thinking about how sad and like disappointed they must feel. And like, I get really caught up in that and I have to kind of like cut myself off because I'm just like, I mean, it just must be so hard, right? To do that and to like have something like that happen. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just one of those things. It's like the 800. I definitely would not Freaky Friday with an 800-meter runner because something always happens in that race. That is a bad
It's
juju
just
race.
like such a wild race because they start like just standing and then they have run 100 meters in their lanes and then they all cut in and it's like, I mean, it's so chaotic.
There's got to be a better system.
The tactics, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's so chaotic. But I mean, I felt like that was just like emblematic of sports where like Nia Akins had, was so happy to win and she had fallen in 2021 and it was just like you have these three women who were so excited and then you have like the devastation of Athing Mo and then you find out that Athing had a torn hamstring like 4 weeks ago and you're like, wait, what? And then you ran 3 fast 800s. Ouch. Like I have a perfectly fine hamstring, but that sounds too hard. So, I mean, I hope she can recover well and maybe this gives her the time. And I think there is still some relay possibilities, but man, it is brutal, but I love the U.S. Olympic trials format. I am a big fan of that. And I do. Maybe from my swimming background, that's why the 100-meter where you get your own lane is very appealing. Because I don't know if I have these tactics. Like Nikki Hiltz, their tactics getting around at that final kick. Oh my goodness. And then like the women's 10K coming down to like
oh yeah,
finish with like Parker Valby and Wayne Colati and it was who was the third? I'm like forgetting this. Carissa Schweitzer. But it was like a sprint finish for them. The women's 5K was like 2/100ths of a second or something. It was just so, I mean, it was so cool. So thank you to everyone who was there competing for that inspiration.
Okay, really my last tidbit, Haley. So sprint finish reminded me, I did watch Western States coverage over the weekend and we should give a shout out to Heather Jackson, who was 7th at Western States this year. She returned to Squaw Valley after a DNF there last year. And it was exciting to see her race really strong in that top 10, super competitive deep field as always at States. And Paula Finley was there crewing for Heather, which I thought was fun. And it seemed like such a cool experience for Paula to get to witness that kind of event. So I enjoyed kind of following that through Instagram. And Katie Scheid ran away with the women's race. I mean, she's the Taylor Knibb of ultra running right now in some ways. And so that was happening, but the men's race was like actually quite close. And so Jim Walmsley was, I want to say it was until like mile 80 or 85 that he was pretty like neck and neck with the second place man. And then and I'm really sorry, guys. I know the second place guy's name is Rod, and I don't know his last name, and I totally am blanking on the third place guy's name, but I'll just tell you the story. Anyway, the Jim won by a decent margin in the end, and then Haley, it was like 20 seconds. It was a sprint finish around the track in Auburn that separated the second place male and the third place male. And I mean, those guys were like gutting it out. It looked like the sprint finish we had. Where was that triathlon that we had the other day that the guys were like sprinting, finishing, right?
T100 San Francisco. Yeah.
Yes. Very similar feel. And it was like completely different racing. So it was wild to see, but it was such a good weekend of endurance sports.
Sprint finish on the track after 100 miles. Like that's when it is like, okay, what kind of kick do you got? You're channeling your Nikki Hiltz, your inner Nikki Hiltz for sure. Have you ever had a sprint finish in triathlon?
Not really. No, not like that. It was a quarter mile. Like I had to out kick someone, but I had plenty of real estate to do it. It felt like a sprint finish doing it with a quarter mile to go. And that was for my first Kona spot actually at Ironman Arizona. But I really can't imagine what it's like to like enter the carpet, right, area and be like battling. I don't think I would be good at that.
I had that sprint finish with Sarah Perez Sala at Clash Miami, not this year, the year before, but she crushed me. And it was like, it is one of those things, like in my brain, I'm like Nikki Hiltz, right? And I'm like, I got this. And then in actual practice, I was like, there she goes.
I did have one Nikki Hiltz moment. Do you remember when I felt like I was out sprinting Natasha Bodman, but she didn't know I was out sprinting? And
yes,
that was her retirement race.
It was in Switzerland. Yes, you did. Oh, I forgot you did that.
And yeah, it was the last money spot, you guys. I had to do it. I had to get that paycheck because it was a really expensive trip to get over there. And so that was probably the most Nikki Hiltz I've ever been in that race. But it is funny when you like look back and like you're like, no, that's not how I look.
I wish. But very exciting. Lots of excellent racing still to come this summer, but congratulations to everyone. I mean, I don't know if anyone's listening to this, but it's just, wow, thank you for inspiring me. And I'm taking those, lessons that I learned just watching those races into my training, and hopefully leading into a solid day for me, or at least great life experience in London in a few weeks. But Alyssa, we have like a pretty cool special interview this week because neither of us actually did it. So we outsourced this one. Lynda Rowan is the community and engagement leader of Feisty courses, and she has a fun connection with Taylor Knibb. And so Lynda did this interview with Taylor. It is in part to promote the Feisty Fueled course, which is starting on July 9th. I believe you can still sign up for that if you go to womensperformance.com/fueled and enroll. There's a lot of great information in that course. And again, go to that womensperformance.com/fueled to get more information, but starting July 9th. So you have a couple days after this comes out to get on that. But if you don't know who Taylor Knibb is, she's the rating 70.3 world champion. She was 4th at Kona in her debut last year. She just won 70.3 Oceanside and T100 San Francisco by huge margins. She's also qualified to represent the United States in both triathlon and cycling at the upcoming Paris Olympics. So watch for her later this month in quite a few events. Lynda and Taylor talk about things that are pretty fun about Taylor's nutrition. They start with a conversation about Lynda watching Taylor eat pre-race cake before her first 70.3 Worlds in St. George. And Lynda was surprised by that. And they talk about the reasons behind that and how Taylor's views on nutrition have evolved since she was a collegiate swimmer and runner at Cornell, and even how they've changed through her changing triathlon coaches in recent years. She talks about fueling through her menstrual cycle and how that changes, and also how her fueling has changed when she's at altitude and not at altitude. And it's just a very frank, real conversation. We're really thankful that Lynda shared it with us. So we hope you will enjoy this conversation between Lynda Rowan and Taylor Knibb. And if you are interested, consider signing up for that Feisty Fueled course. We'll have that full conversation right after the break.
Taylor Knibb, welcome to Feisty. Welcome to love to just chat with you, and thank you for taking the time. You've been my little buddy for a little while, and I thought what a great opportunity to have a chat with you. Feisty's about to launch a new course called Fueled, and I remember, firstly, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I love getting to talk to you.
It's always good fun. Now, we're going to, how did I first meet Taylor Knibb? I went to St. George 70.3, and I was lucky to be rooming with Taylor. And I happened to open the fridge.
And lucky to be rooming. Can I caveat that? You were kind enough to be prepared, and you had extra rooms in your house, and I was unprepared, and I needed a place to stay. So you opened your doors and welcomed me.
Welcome to the apartment. We didn't room together. We had separate rooms. Let's clarify that as well. There was separate rooms going on in there. And I happened to, it was, me, age group athlete. Oh, wow, I'm staying with Taylor Knibb. I'm sure she's just perfect at everything she does because she's so detailed. I happened to open the fridge and in there was a cake. And I thought, well, it must be someone's birthday. So I say to Taylor, whose birthday is it for the birthday cake? And why was the birthday cake there, Taylor?
The birthday cake was there because I wanted cake that week. I had it before Boulder 70.3. And so I figured like before 70.3, I need cake that week. So it's just, I eat a lot of cake. I eat what I want to eat. So yes, unfortunately, there was no birthday that we know about, but we had cake before the race.
Who needs a birthday? Need birthday cake, right?
No, you don't need one, but you can always have.
So that made me think then that this chick's cool first. And then I thought, wow, I can actually let my guard down a little bit and I can eat how I normally eat. Because when I go into races, there's a bit of a plan, but I really do talk about intuitive eating, where I talk about what does my body need, how does it need it, and I have a plan. I'm not going to start trying a whole lot of foods before a race or before I just want to perform, whether it's a race, whether that's someone's hiking, whether that's someone's want to perform on the day in their corporate world. So when you're linked to food, do you have a really set plan around all your training, or do you really do intuitive eating and just eat as you feel? Because you must burn a lot of calories.
Yeah, so I think it's kind of a mix, like knowing, okay, if I have a big session, first of all, need to eat before, during, and after. But then also, like, if I'm hungry, I'm going to eat. So if you're not hungry, but you know you need the energy, you need to eat. So that's where it's kind of the opposite of intuitive eating, I guess, because you know you need the fuel, so you can't lie to yourself. But then on the other hand, if you're still hungry, even if you've had 2 dinners already, a third dinner isn't like going to kill you.
Yeah. And as female athletes, part of our field course, the section is about the culture and the influence that our cultures had over our eating. When you're still a baby to all of us, you're still very young, a little baby, Taylor. But when you were a child, do you remember, going through training camps and do you remember having conscious eating where you were sort of concerned of calories going in? Because us as females, when at my age, 20 and going through training camps, it was very anti-carbs, where we know the research is telling us now that's not probably, we want to have some carbs, we want to be able to fuel. Do you remember when you were a child, where there's any sort of diet culture going?
Well, I ran in college and I lived with 9 other female runners. So I definitely saw one of my housemates counted rice noodles on the counter. So there was that. But then on the other hand, there were our team of 40. There were, of course, some people who were struggling, but then also there were a lot of really good influences. And so I had the benefit that I was not just running and I was using a lot more energy. And so I had to swim and bike too in college. So it was, I guess I got saved a bit, but it was just, you saw it, but it also helped that we had a big enough team that there were some buffers.
Yeah, and that's really great to hear. I suppose there's so many education and coaches out there now. I'm going to fire a quick question at you, Taylor. What do you think about shrink it and pink it? Now, that's from food, that's from clothing apparel for women. That's just not appropriate for women, but they think we'll just shrink the package and we'll pink it and it's perfect for women. What do we think about that?
Oh, I don't think that's appropriate. But maybe it is in some scenarios. I don't know. Maybe some people love that size. But when I go to a restaurant to eat, I think I'll ask oh, is this enough food sometimes? And they'll be like, oh yeah, that's way too much. And I'm like, oh, just watch me eat. It will not be. So yeah, I think but it depends on the person. And there are different times in your life where maybe what's appropriate for you, just but it doesn't have to be shrunken pink, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Now that made me think about asking you a question. Have you ever done one of those challenges where it's the biggest steak you can have? Steak and beer?
No, sorry.
No, that's okay. There was a place I went to, it was about chicken parmesanas, where it was a huge chicken parmesana and a beer. I don't drink beer, so I had to pass on the beer. And I just know some people try and make themselves sick because they're so big. Because I know you could eat a lot. I did spend a couple of days with you. So I know you can sort of consume some food. I'm really sorry for your mum and dad that have to pay for well, actually, no, you have to pay for your food bills now, right? You're on your own.
Yes, I pay for my grocery bills. Yes.
You must have to budget that.
Yeah, but it's a business expense. I need to eat for my work. So
perfect. You want to make sure you win some races soon to pay for that grocery bill.
Yes, always. But I have a Costco membership, so it's all good. So
perfect. Training in the morning or exercising, because a lot of our people that are be doing fueled, some are very high performance athletes, but some are just wanting to wake up in the morning and be the best version of themselves. So when they wake up in the morning, it could be a Peloton, it could be a strength training session. How do you go about? Do you enjoy fuel first thing in the morning when you wake up, or food, or do you sort of struggle getting that in early in the mornings before training?
Well, I always eat. I know I have to. So I have the same first breakfast every single morning. It is oatmeal and yogurt. And so it's just very plain, simple. You may have seen me make it. Erin makes fun of how I make that because she's like, it's not very meticulous. You just kind of like spoon in the yogurt and slap it down. Like, so, but it works. And I know I need to eat it and it keeps me satiated for a while. So like that's just what I do. So, but you add
fruit or protein into that?
No, but the yogurt has protein and it's full fat.
Yeah.
I like the Faye 5% yogurt.
Great. There's a good little tip there. There's a sponsorship deal going on there coming up next for that.
If only.
Fueling for when you're training or when you're exercising in general, do you have a plan going out to that, or do you eat, again, more intuitive of how you feel?
I think there's kind of a mix. So I'm working with a new coach this year, and he puts in the grams of carbohydrates that I have to consume per hour on each bike ride. And he'll also put that in for some runs, not all runs, but some runs. And so with that, it's just really easy because it's just like, okay, what's the duration? What do I have to eat? And I have my lovely The Feed sponsorship. So it's like every single, like I can use different amounts for gels, like to just like match it up. And then I know like, okay, here's what I need to eat. And it needs to be done by the end of the session. So that's it. Like it's pretty, my coach helps me a lot. But then also
he does it for some runs, but not others. What do you think that is? I'm a coach, so got my own brain thinking maybe why that could be. Why does he do that, do you think?
I think for the runs that I've had it in, it was like the first run he put it in, it was like an hour and 20-minute run, and he wanted me to do 80 grams of carbs an hour. And I'm like, whoa. I haven't done any runs with fueling yet. Like we've been on a very like step-by-step, like slightly moving up. So I think it's both. Yeah, I actually would have to ask him because I have some tougher runs and he doesn't put it in, but then I know what I need. So it's like, you know what you need to do. And you don't need your coach holding your hand at a certain point. We're all adults, hopefully. And so it's like, okay, you should know that you're 80 grams of carbs an hour. That's for me at least.
Yeah. And that is depending on, I'm not going to ask your body weight, but that is depending on your body weight. So for me, I have 60 grams per hour. I'm a little bit tinier than Taylor, probably about a foot smaller. So it does also depend on your body weight for those carbs. Phases of life, Taylor, we as females, it's really important to think about our phases of life, whether we come from childhood, we come from pregnancy, we come through when we're menstruating, we're coming through perimenopause, menopause. I know you're not there. So
hopefully not.
When you are going through your own cycle, do you change your training, and do you change your nutrition, anything around that through when you're cycling through your menstrual period?
Yes and no. So I track my period. I put it in Training Peaks. So my coaches get to see like when my period starts. And then it's also nice because in Training Peaks, you can just like, I guess, search workouts, and I put them as a custom, and the title is period start. So then it's just, I can look back and see the dates. And then just kind of now my coach has me actually measure my HRV. And so I've learned kind of how that is influenced by the cycle. It's very interesting.
And do you think does yours change, your HRV with your cycle?
Yes. And more so more dependent on my cycle than anything else, unless I'm coming back to altitude or I'm coming off of a race. But I can tell you, like, you could give me an HRV value and I could tell you what time, like around where I am. Because it'll change by like about 50, whatever I guess it's millisecond. I don't know, like between 60 and 110. That's what I get, the ranges. And I know everyone's unique. But then I know I just eat a little bit more the week before my cycle, or before my period starts. But it's just, again, if I'm hungry, I eat. That's about it.
And that's not conscious. You just feel a bit hungrier before your cycle.
Yeah, but I learned, so living at altitude, I moved to altitude in 2021. And so the week before the cycle, I'm probably my weakest, I would say, as a person. Don't want to label it, because it also, I'm still a changing human being, but I would be wrecked the week that I got my period. And at sea level, I was strongest when I got my period. And so then it was kind of like looking back through it, and it was like, okay, at altitude, you just can't get away with the same things. And so if I eat a little more, then I'm just like, I needed to do that. And then I'm good the next week.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing. And I think in part of Feisty, we really do openly talk about the cycles in life and how it affects us. And some people, for me, the couple of days after my period, I felt amazing. I don't have my period anymore. I've gone through that phase, but I felt really good. I knew I could lift a lot, and I knew I could go and do a really hard training session. But same couple of days before, I couldn't get enough sugar. I couldn't get enough food. It was like, Rami, how much food can I eat in that time? Now that we've talked about a lot of food, what about underfueling? Talk to me about, have you ever had it? Yeah, you went, yep. Have I ever underfueled, and what happened?
Well, I think actually there might be two stories. Can we go back to the period first? You can cut this out if you want. But so I started working with a new coach, and I'm on a 7-day training cycle, but Mondays and Fridays are very easy. I have swim and gym only. And my former training schedule was like, you kind of had something every day, and there were easy days, but you had a swim and a ride. So you were still doing 2.5, 3 hours of work that day. So anyway, start working with my new coach, and then I get my first period, like with the new coach, not my first period ever. Don't worry, I still had my cycle. But now, like, for the first time in my life, like, apparently, like, your boobs get bigger and you get like tender beforehand. I'd never gotten that before. So like a few months ago, I was telling Dan this, and I'm like, yeah, this is a new thing working with you. And he's like, oh, that is very good. That means you're healthy. That means like that your body has enough energy and the training load is appropriate. So even if you're like, and I had thought that I was like perfectly fueling, which I may have been before, just the load was so high that you just can't get on top of it. And your body might send you other signals that I learned for the first time at 25, 26, that's apparently normal. And I just got to skip that for like 10 years. But sorry if that's too much.
Welcome back. You got some sore boobies.
Sorry. Sorry for too much information.
Not at all. Here at Feisty, we share lots of information. I should get you on one of our cohorts one day with like 50 women. You imagine all the information we share on that. It's great. Fantastic.
Oh, good. Dangerous. But back to the underfueling, in case you want to cut it out.
No.
Yes, I think the underfueling was probably the first time was at the end of high school. I had a new triathlon coach, and I started training a lot more, and I lived at home. And I don't think, and this isn't to put it on me, this isn't to put it on my parents, but like I would eat the same breakfast every morning, and that didn't change based on how my training load was changing. And then at school, like lunch, same every day, regardless. And then dinner, my mom was making dinner. So it's like you eat what you're given. And like the increase in my volume, I don't think was taken into account at that period of time. So then thankfully I went to college and I learned, and it was sorted out. But yes, I know with like an underfueling can be very, like it can be long-term, but it can also be acute. And so I worked with a nutritionist in college, and he was like, you know, like certain days, like you just want to like manage how long you're in the energy deficit and try to stay in that energy deficit as little as possible. But might be some days where you're going to be in an energy deficit. You're just going to be. And that's why like, he's like, and then take a broader, like 48-hour view or 72-hour view. And so as long as you're like managing that, which that's how coaches can help. Because if you have like a really big 2-day block and then you have an easy day, and bookending each really hard day, even if you'll be in a little bit of an energy deficit those 2 hard days, the easy days on the front end and back end can help you just stay energy neutral or however you need to be.
Yeah, I love it. And I think when you talked about bookending it and having those, if you got continuous days, we know some days we're going to be in energy deficit. It's just going to be happening. Keep eating, which we talk about through the course, how we can keep eating for that session for tomorrow and the next day. You're not just eating for the now session. Taylor, do you work with a sports nutritionist now?
I do not right now, and I need to, but that will be added post-Paris because I don't know too many chefs in the kitchen right now, and I need to one step at a time.
Where are you going? Paris for holiday or?
Yes, it's a trip.
It's going to be an amazing trip, and we are at Feisty. Me personally will be cheering you so loud, screaming at that TV. But at Feisty too, we thank you for everything that you provide for us and just giving your time today. Any other little words of wisdom around fueling for us to leave?
Well, actually, can I explain that question about the nutritionist? So I worked with, I think, 2 different nutritionists in college. And it was through the USOPC, and because I'm part of the national team for USA Triathlon. And so like we have fantastic resources. But whenever I worked with a nutritionist and like following their prescriptions and recommendations, I was always hungry because so I went to a school where I was walking around campus between we didn't really drive on campus. Good luck parking Cornell. And so it was a lot of walking, but then if I wasn't training, I was studying, and it was a lot of energy. And so I think that I was like trying to be perfect and trying to follow the prescriptions. I was just like so hungry. So that's also like a little bit of my fear, because it's not only like training you're fueling for, but you have to take your life into account. And so you have to like understand what you're doing and how much energy you're burning. And you might not think it's anything, but like using your brain takes a lot of energy, but also just like moving around the whole day takes a lot of energy.
Yeah, and we're going to go, but of course, when we're chatting, there's always more things to talk about. You talked about that really briefly, life as well. So you as a professional athlete and us as living life, we have experiences, and we have, birthday parties, family gatherings, we experiences with our other halves or family. How do you navigate through that? Meaning you've got so many big events and weekends. Do you feel you can go out and have free meals and eat where you want, what you want, and experience things with, or do you feel like you miss out a little bit because of nutrition?
Oh no, like my bigger fear is not getting enough food. Like I never walk, or I probably will, because you talk about stages of life, but at this stage of my life, my concern is not that I'll like show up to a party and overeat, because don't worry, that's, even if that happens, that's sorted out in like 2 days. It's done. Like I need that energy and will need that energy, but it's more ensuring that there is food. Because actually this might not be great to share, but I went to a camp with Lidl Trek in the fall after Kona. And one of my like deal breakers was the fact that at least 2 of the nights they didn't have a real dinner. It was like finger food. And I'm like, 2 of the 4 nights. And it wasn't I'm like, I don't want to just like be picking at food. Like I need a dinner, a proper meal. Don't give me like cheese and crackers or whatever, like finger foods you're going to give. Like give me a real meal, please. And that's a professional cycling team. And now it was in the off season, so it's different, but still it's like we're athletes, and in the off season or on season, you should be treating your body well and fueling it appropriately. And like, it can be very easy to be like, oh, I'm not racing for however long, I'm just going to chill. But you still you need to take care of your body regardless of what you have coming up. Because again, you talk about life, like you want a healthy body.
Yeah. And it's fueling for now, and it's fueling for the future. I always talk about whether that's future sessions, training, or just life in general. Thank you so much, Taylor. It's always wonderful to talk to you, but myself personally, and also from the Feisty family, we all wish you an amazing, in a month's time, you're going to do everyone proud, yourself proud. And honestly, I will be screaming at that TV. You're going to hear me coming through, but thank you for your time. Any last words of wisdom for our fueled, feisty cohort?
Well, you should listen to Lynda, but thank you, Lynda, for having me.
Thanks so much to Taylor for that interview with Lynda. And Taylor, you definitely, I think, are an expert, at least in your own experiences. And we are super grateful that you shared all of that information with us. And I think there's a lot for all of us to learn from there. So thank you.
And just a reminder that the Feisty Fueled course starts July 9th, and you can go to womensperformance.com/fueled to enroll. Thanks again, Lynda, for sharing that great conversation and chatting with Taylor. And, for anyone who has questions for Alyssa and I, the race season for age groupers is in full swing. Maybe you've been inspired by the Olympic trials and swimming and running and just want to, or heptathlon, and you want to join your own race and would like us to answer your questions. Our mailbag is always open at ironwomenpodcast@gmail.com, and we'd love to answer your questions on an upcoming show.
All right, Haley, I hope you enjoy this next week of T100 London prep, and I will be eagerly counting down the days until you are racing by Big Ben, and I can't wait to hear all about everything.
Or a little bit further east.
Okay.
I mean, again, I'm not super familiar with my London geography, but I don't think Big Ben is
the
on
Palace.
the course.
What else do I know in London?
I think it's close by the O2, which is not the arena where Taylor played. It's like the smaller one.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll brush up on some London landmarks before you head there.
I do know. I mean, I'm in between all the Taylor Swift shows when she was in London, and I do know that didn't the mayor make a little, they put up a thing on the tube where it's here's all the locations from her songs. And I'm like, I wonder if I have time to go visit.
Oh yeah, dude. Or the run tour. You did that run tour in Nashville. Maybe someone's doing a run tour of Taylor Swift locations in London.
Yeah, I'll be I have a shakeout run.
I mean, maybe Lucy Charles Barkley is free. She can help you. Since she's
I'm sure she's totally free. There's no media obligations around these events or anything. And she's not the marquee athlete leading the series in her hometown. But you never know. Yeah, you never know, right? But we'll, it's going to be a entertaining experience, but I'm glad I have a little bit of time before I head there because I got to get a little faster. So we'll work on that.
Yeah, you got it. All right, Haley, I'll talk to you next week.
Bye, Alyssa. You've been listening to the Iron Women podcast hosted by Haley Chura and Alyssa Godesky.
Iron Women is a production of Feisty Media and is edited by Lydia Russell and produced by Ella Natishan.
Head to livefeisty.com to find more podcasts, stories, and fresh perspectives.
Thanks for listening.